Coming way down here to heal trauma or things that make us disassociate from our body and pull away. We can say what needs to heal so I can come more fully in, so I can embody, so I can be in my skin and really let that be a source of comfort, of healing, of joy, of living life, being in this moment. I'm taking part of a program that studies the brain and trauma, and I just wanted to share with you some of the things that I've learned so far and how you can bring that into dance and into movement. One is that the part of our brain that's greatly affected if we've had any trauma, whether it's childhood trauma that happened 20 years ago and it's affecting how we're relating or how we're in our bodies, or if it's a trauma that just happened now. And trauma is anything that gets the body dysregulated. So it could be seeing a car accident or being in a car accident or just being shocked. The body goes into a little bit of a trauma. And if most of us, in the animal world, we shake it off. We freeze, we hold our breath. Animals hold their breath and freeze, and then they shake it off and then they move on. But humans don't usually shake off the trauma. Our bodies hold the patterns. And then we process life through those patterns, and that affects our health on every level, from our immune system to how we think cognitively to how we relate and how we socialize. It affects all parts of us. So the way to, one of the things they've done is observe brains of people who've had traumas, and they found that the thalamus, which is deep inside the brain near the memory areas, is like the switchboard where we take in information around us, what we perceive, and it's the switchboard that tells us how we perceive it. So if we've had something happen to us a long time ago and it's still activated in our body, how we perceive life is activated through that storyline that got embedded inside of us. So the thalamus regulates whether we perceive something from fear or from love, and in a different way you could look at it like it regulates whether we're in the egocentric part of where we view life as everything is happening to me and affecting me, and it's all about me, my perception, and it comes from deep inside, like the ego self. And then the other side of that is disassociation. And so the ego self, the fear part, can go also into victim mode, but then the disassociation can be all the way into not being in the body at all. How we perceive a threat or how we've had a trauma can put us into a stuck mode of one or the other ways of perceiving life. And that's not a healthy rhythm for our brain to be in. Our brain in the thalamus, in a healthy brain, goes back and forth from the ego self to the allocentric self to the bigger picture. And it goes back and forth, and that's a healthy brain. Our brains have rhythms, just like our heartbeat has a rhythm. And they've also studied the brains of people who have almost no trauma, and their brains have a rhythm and a flow for how we perceive life. Right after a trauma or someone affected by a trauma, their brain, that flow and pattern gets all scattered. So a lot of scattered thinking and not able to focus and not able to make sense of the things that we're seeing. That's what happens to our brain when there's a trauma. So there's a disruption in the rhythm. So the two things that I took away from learning this is the neuroscientists mentioned that so we can go to rhythm outside of us. We can go to music and listen to music that has rhythm. We can move with it. And when it's somatic, when we go into the soma of the body, the physical sensation of the body, we can't be in our trauma at the same time. So going into sensation is a healing practice of putting less awareness and attention on the thoughts and the stories and the old traumas, and puts us in the absolute present, which is healing for the brain and healing for letting go of those pathways that are taking it either from the egocentric self or into disassociating. The other thing that they said was that So rhythm, we can find rhythm in music and then feel it in our bodies and once we feel it in our bodies, our brains start to get more rhythmic, but also feeling it from a community. So if you're moving with a group in a rhythm, there's a feel that is really joyful and supportive, and there's a oneness and a wholeness that comes through with that. And that can be a really healing way. Sometimes on our own, we can't find the rhythm. So when we're with a group, we can just relax as we feel safe with a group, and we can start to find the rhythm, and then the rhythm itself can heal over time things in the brain that are scattered. It starts to make the brain work more clearly. So I hope that's information that's helpful. Good morning, Anita. Anita's a friend who dances with me here, and she works with children and with their voices. And so I'll bet you, Anita, you have a lot of information and experience with working with kids' brains when they are, a lot of what I'm studying is when kids are neglected or when they are abused, how it affects their brains. And it makes them, they can get ADD, they can disassociate and not work well in groups and not be able to build social systems and friends. And then how we can bring it back in through rhythm and through movement is what is so exciting about this practice. And it's all through the somatic, through the feeling that the skin that we're in, comfortable in our bones, in our home of our body. It's good to feel you all there. So that was a lot of download from my brain. Let's actually experience it. So if you just take a moment, let your body relax here. And sink in, drop in. I'm feeling the movement here as I give myself that invitation to drop in more. So I'm not in my thinking mind, dropping into my body. The interesting thing is King always comes over once I drop in. So something happens vibrationally that animals, I think, feel. And generally, once we drop in, our nervous system gets calm. So certainly our heart rate will change, our breath will change. Now, I invite you to take this awareness that we're cultivating and bring it to your right shoulder. And just be there for a while. This could be visualizing your right shoulder, or just noticing if there's a sensation of weight in your right shoulder. Is there a pain or an ache? Does it feel pleasurable to feel it? Is your right shoulder affected by your breath? Stay with that right shoulder for a while. Sometimes even just placing your awareness on a part of the body like this, even an emotion can come forth. And that's beautiful. That's going into flipping that thalamus from going into the ego, from maybe being disassociated. So we want to have that. We want to be able to feel what's happening. But then also to get the bird's eye view, the bigger picture view as well. Going back from the subjective to the objective perspective. Let your attention shift from your right shoulder over to your left. And just compare. Is there tingling? Is it numb? Does it feel warm or cold? One of the other tools, as you're sensing this left shoulder, one of the other tools that the scientists shared was that if someone is going into a surgery or going into doing something that is an overwhelming task or something that's scary, disassociation is actually not a bad thing. It can be a good thing and a tool that's used consciously. So we can disassociate from a problem. So when we have a problem, we tend to zero our attention in and dial all our energy on that problem. We forget about everything else that's happening around us. So if we unplug a little bit, that's that letting go or detaching from our thoughts of what we think is happening, and go into a bigger perspective, it can be a real helpful way of navigating forward if we're going into something that we're uncomfortable with. So still sensing your left shoulder, noticing if there are any changes. Even just staying with the left shoulder can be a meditation. I'm noticing my elbow wants to do a little wiggle every once in a while through this left shoulder. Some kind of energy or muscle is relaxing while I'm putting my awareness on it. So now we'll let both shoulders, so we're splitting our attention into both shoulders and just taking a moment to sense. I'm going to put a song on and let's start from there, see what comes forward. Welcome to share your experience. I'd love to hear it. Good morning, Suzanne. All right, King, you're right on the music, baby. You're right on the song.
Powering on. Welcome to Alltech Lansing.
Dance. Come on, computer.
What is love? A simple word or a crazy feeling? What is love? It feels like I'm underwater breathing. I've been waiting for somebody like you, baby, to come around. She'll make my heart beat like a drum. Bum, 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 bum. She'll make my heart beat like a drum. Bum, 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 bum. I'm with you, I'm in paradise. The things you do let me come alive. Out of the blue, our worlds collide. So hold me until the sunlight. Spend the day of blue and you blew my mind. Boy, I never knew your love was so divine. It's not an image you remember for a lifetime. With the flow, let your body go up, let your body go low, low, low. Girl with the flow, let your body go up, let your body go low. Girl with the flow, let your body go up, let your body go low, low, low. Girl with the flow, let your body go up, let your body go low. Go with the flow. 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 How we fly, every day is like the weekend, hot like fire. Don't wanna wake up from the state of dreaming. All I'm saying is, you don't know what love can do to you till you're the one. She got a heartbeat like a drum. Bum, 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 bum. She make my heart beat like a drum. Bum, 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 bum. I'm with you, I'm in paradise. Things you do make me come alive. Out of the blue, our worlds collide. So hold me until the sunlight. Spend a day or two and you blew my mind. Boy, I never knew your love was so divine. Tonight I'ma make sure you remember for a lifetime. Girl with the flow, let your body go up, let your body go low, low, low. Girl with the flow, let your body go up, let your body go low. Girl with the flow, let your body go up, let your body go low, low, low. Girl with the flow, let your body go up, let your body go low. Go with the flow. Go with the flow. Go with the flow.
Nutrition.